Welcome to a new episode of the Creative Industry Insight podcast. I'm your host, Bobby. Today, we welcome editor Kirk Baxter, who joins us to talk about their work on A House of Dynamite. Kirk will talk us through the editing process of the film's unique narrative structure. Please be warned there are heavy spoilers in this episode. Now let's jump into the conversation with Kirk. Hi Kirk, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
We're here to talk about A House of Dynamite that's come out recently on Netflix. How have you found the reaction and reception to the film?
Terrific. From what I've read, you know, it got a really good response in terms of reviews. In regards to how many people I have access to, that's pretty limited. I'm a film editor. I'm isolated a lot.
Well, no, but but you could be like, as a film editor, you're always sort of there in the background working on things, and then somebody could always pop in. I can imagine that sometimes you've got the execs coming in and mentioning certain things, or maybe other directors or
No,
producers
I mean,
popping
look,
in.
we've done a lot of Q&As and things on House of Dynamite, and we went to the Venice Film Festival with it, and New York, LA for me. So I did see a lot of audience response, and it just scared the fuck out of everyone. And that was, the intention to get everybody thinking.
Yeah, well, I think it's one of those films that it's the pit of your stomach, and you don't know if it's just like the fear of how real something could be, or how quickly something could be, or is it just also the soundtrack, what's going on? It's also like watching people who are kind of like keeping their cool, but like kind of internally panicking. Um, yeah, it's a massive ride of a film, and then also it feels like it's like split up into sort of vignettes really, um, and what I quite like is that moments that you kind of you hear the first time and then you catch on different points of view. So I think one bit is like when it's like, oh, we spent $50 billion on a coin toss, and I was like, that's the bit that you hear the most at certain points, and it kind of makes you chuckle, and you're like, oh, we're in this point of view now. Oh, okay,
I
now
love
we
the
understand.
repeating of all of that information. That was really dessert for me to do all of that. I cherished kind of coming back to little sprinkles of information, and even things as rudimentary as like the general, like talking about the baseball game, and sprinkling that into chapter one as a piece of audio that you're not aware of. It's just chit chat, and then you experience him saying it again, and it's just another little thing to let you clock in, going, whoa, 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 we've been here before. But those big lines of bullet with a bullet, and like those ones, I they weren't written to be repeated, but I love the overlap of them to sort of cement you in the perspectives, the
It
repetition.
is, you know, that sort of idea, is that something that you guys came up with during the edit, where you think that there's, I can imagine in the script it's all broken down, but at the same time, as an editor, you could probably have a lot of fun of where you can cut the film and sort of change it a little bit.
Yes, the I mean, Noah did a terrific script that really attracted me to want to do it, work on the movie beyond working with Catherine. So no detracting from what he wrote, because you could follow it as a blueprint perfectly well, but you can blur the lines of where you cross around. And what Noah did was really intelligent in terms of saying we left the story before in chapter one at this point in the dialogue, and we're going to pick it up here at this point in chapter two. So you're always seeing something new. I overlapped all of that so that we had echoes of where we were before. So it like in some really big examples, like there's the president in the helicopter at the end when he was talking about the sort of analysis of the phone call with the Russians. That was only written to be in chapter two through Jake's perspective when he's on the call with them. and then the president was just heard with Jake. But because Catherine filmed him, the president, like physically in the helicopter as well, didn't just record his voice. I was able to repeat that entire scene from his perspective. No, I didn't write it that way. I don't think on paper you would go, why am I reading all this again? But when it reaches film and it has a pulse, and all of a sudden that the exact same information is brand new when you're experiencing it through a new person, and it brings tension with the president because you get to hear him say, I need a minute, and it's like you've only got two. Why are we now in Africa? Like, so it sort of puts a pressure on the scene in Africa rather than it just sort of drifting away from the urgency. So it was interesting. Like all films always have that kind of push and pull of like you've got a blueprint that gets you, 95% of the way there, and then it's nuance.
I think as well, like because throughout the um like the whole president stuff, you don't actually see him on the calls. So when you get to that third part and you're experiencing it in his point of view, you kind of get that more human reaction to it all. Because at the
Yeah.
time, it kind of just sounds like he's kind of cutting in and out. It's like, oh, what's going on? Who is this? What's this? But really, it's him just sort of trying to catch his breath and think, wow, this is actually real. What are we going to do? And I guess just like in spy films, something like this, you can kind of hold on reaction with people a bit longer, um, and sort of play on that tension. So even in like chapter two, with the analyst when he's trying to go through the security with the X-ray machines and the metal detectors, trying to sort of go past going through when it's thinking like something like that for him in a usual day would probably take 30 seconds, but that's taking an extra few minutes because something's happening and it's not good. And oh my God,
That's one of my favorite scenes because it's comedic to me. I laugh when I watch it. I laugh the whole time, and it's terrifying for others because it's highlighting this idea of this shit can go down at any point. Where you could be at the dentist, you could be here, you could be like you've all got to try to operate in this insane idea of it's happening now. Um, but for me, it's kind of reaches almost comedy in its timing of miscommunication. And I wasn't talking to you, sir. Then who in the hell are you talking to? And its speed and its frenzy is really fun for me. The cross-cutting between the two locations and trying to keep screen direction alive between the two locations. Jake's like, moving from one side of the frame to the other in the middle of, and I'm picking up on the other side when we go back to the when we go back to Stratcom. I'm always trying to put the general, in conversational eye line with wherever he is now in his back and forth frenzy at the White House. So I'm still trying to give it like classic filmic structure, but in this sort of fly on the wall mayhem.
do you find that like when because there is because it is sort of broken up into different parts, do you feel like you're working on a number of short films that make up the film, or do you have an idea of like this is the structure of the film in terms of this is what we want to tell, but then we will put so part A, part B will be in the first section, and then part two will have C and E, and then we'll go back in part three to D and F, and then sort of just like a Rubik's cube, kind of mix it around a little bit, and then play it into place.
No, it had a formula, a formula in terms of the layers of government. It wanted to start more with the grunts that are sort of executing and gathering, and then move its way up to sort of more executive level, and then the final sort of people in power. So it shrinks in personnel as it goes, as it isolates towards just the president. So you've got a lot more ability to edit more rapidly in the first two acts because you've just got more people and big screens and all sorts of stuff. But you end up with just, a person on a phone in the car. So it gets, or in the helicopter, it gets really limited. So, they were wisely cast to have Jared Harris and the president. Idris Elba helped me. Yeah, because their performances hold. So now I really need, people to be still and to hold power within their faces, because it's not as kinetic. It's showing the isolation of sole authority.
Yeah, and there's so much more pressure as well added to what they're doing and what they were trying to achieve. Um, and then it's like just like any human, they go back to the loved ones about who it's going to affect.
When he's
Um,
got 2 minutes.
yeah, and I don't think I'll ever be in that sort of situation. But it's
I
still
don't think anyone should be.
no, no, as in yeah, no one should be. But then also, I don't think I will ever be in that sort of situation. But it's still insane to think that you're there. It's like, what do you do? Like, do you accept the loss of lives, or do you retaliate? Do you do this? It's like
Would
when
you rather not know it's coming, or would you rather be informed that you've got 7 minutes?
wow.
That'd be like a hellish 7 minutes, or would you rather just explode into vapor?
I think depends where I am. I think that's what I would put as an answer. If
Mm.
it's, I guess, like if I'm not with family or doing something, then I don't want to know. If I'm with family, then I would like to know because then you can have those sort of like, do you know what? Put everything away and let's just spend those 7 minutes all together embracing doing something silly or stupid and accepting fate.
Yeah,
Because we can't do anything. But yeah, just
more likely you'd just be making a peanut butter sandwich, and that's when it happens.
yeah, I'll be making sort of like I'll be picking food up off the floor because my daughter doesn't want to eat any more of what's been prepared, and but she still wants extra ham. But that's what's more likely. But
Fizzy water. It's only 2:44 here.
but I still insane to think though, like those sort of decisions. But then as an editor, because you're working on that sort of timer. Do you feel that there's pressure for you to sort of amp it up, knowing that there's a timer's going down and that there's so many fictional lives at stake?
Yes, well, you got to. I was very conscious of keeping pressure on the movie in terms of pace. So I wouldn't, we would have these sort of deviates into individual persons' emotions, but only for so long. And it, it was important for me to sort of to snatch it away again, to kind of go, you want to know more? I'm sorry you can't because the clock's ticking. Like an example of that is when Secretary Baker goes off the roof. We could hang around in that aftermath, but it's just the president gets another question. Sir, I just got off the call from and it just keeps coming. So that's the tempo of it. So the actors needed to bring these sort of moments of clarity, and that when it happened at its best, they were typically very still. And I was always trying to find those bits within the dailies of performances and allow them to kind of be the breaks on the movie, so it wasn't unfair to watch. And that stillness and that kind of these frozen moments, uh, where they're registering the gravity of it. I think that's kind of makes it heartbreaking but bearable. And then it sort of bounces back to this kinetic movement.
Do you find with like the performances, because the way that the film is shot, that you have those moments of like, uh, uh, I would say slightly like fly on the wall, slightly documentary feel with the sort of zooming and sort of movement, like handheld movement. Do you find that was easier to transfer the kinetic energy into the edit that way, knowing that you had
Yes,
that
well,
style
I
to
would
work on?
look. It's the way Barry works, the cinematographer with long lenses sitting on the edge of action, and they wouldn't rehearse the actors. They wouldn't put out markers, so they wouldn't block the scenes. It would just be ready, set, go. And Catherine had very believable sets built by Jeremy Hindle. Um, so that, and you know, and the screens weren't blue screen, they were all real. Everything was live, so actors could really be in the moment and exist. So the camera kind of just chased what was occurring. So I would look for ways to stay in that movement rather than having to edit it all the time. So, you know, if Barry could be doing editing shots for me with who he's featuring and where he's headed, and um, then I would seek that out because it would just make it feel more, I guess, like war correspondence.
Yes, and I think you as well. Like, I think as an audience member at first, it's a tad bit jarring because you're kind of in something and then zoom and then something moves and you think, okay, what's going on? But then you kind of embrace it, incorporate it, and I feel like as well as like timing, with like whoever the focus putter is as well, and the zooms that happen, it feels like not even a dance, but it's like it's just instinctive that they know that on certain lines that they go into the performer straight away of what they're saying and how it stops feeling jarring after that point, and it also makes the audience kind of gives them a kick up the backside. It's like you need to pay attention to this. You need to pay attention to what this person's about to say
But
or their reaction.
even if focus lags slightly, there's an honesty in the mess. Like I'm trying to bring like a real sort of clean structure in terms of how we're dishing out information, but it doesn't concern me, or I embrace the fact that it's intentionally sloppy within camera work. And I wouldn't want to say that so that Barry takes offense to the word sloppy, but it's human. Like it's being reactive and it's not perfect. It's more in the land of like, holy fuck, what's happening?
Yeah, and I think as well between you guys and you and Barry, the fact that you could probably hold on to someone a bit longer whilst Barry has that sort of zoom or has that focus on them. I wonder how he must have done it on set. They obviously had rehearsals but rehearsals they're not going at.
No rehearsals.
Oh, no rehearsals. Wow.
No, you just did multiple takes, but no rehearsals. Yeah, and there'd be other moments where I'd be like on the general and he'd be in mid-sentence and then Barry would just go whoop and over onto the big board. And I'm like, okay, I'm along for the ride. Like this is when we're going to the board.
And do you feel that like because something like that would that dictate how you present stuff in the film, knowing that
Yes,
in those
yeah, yeah,
takes?
yeah. Well, there's different, there's different takes and different angles, and that if I didn't want to do it, there's ways to work around it. But I would always be looking for how to utilize it and how to keep it as part of the language. Yeah, it wasn't a hindrance for me. It was just another asset.
Okay, because I was thinking about how you could incorporate it in, or in those moments, like imagine you're watching the dailies, thinking, okay, 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 and then it's like, oh, the board comes up by mistake, and obviously not by mistake, but it's like, okay, we've gone in that direction, and then you could make a note saying on this slate, it's gone on this way, so then if we cut it here, all right, we
Well,
use
I
this
would
slate.
with the multiple. There's three cameras going, multicam on almost every performance. So I would take each take and edit it with all three cameras if it's the only thing that existed, and I would sort of cut that to like a finished piece, and I would do that with every take and kind of go, okay, this one's going to take us in this direction. This one's going to obviously we could cross between the takes, but I would still explore what was naturally filmed to see if you could stay within those performances and with the dynamics of what occurred live. So it feels so real. Then on top of that, yes, you can jumble those up together, or you can use your cutaways, or you can go to another location. I mean, it starts to become infinite, but you just got to make choices and you got to work your way through it and try to sift out the very best of it, and the best of it in terms of what's the most honest and raw and emotional and challenging, and not just what's the cleanest or prettiest or best framed. It's what's serving the adrenaline and the heartbreak of it.
Mm. And that's interesting as well, how you're mentioning those. it's like the different sort of not always the best take, but you have to sort of try plan around with what's presented to you. And again, interesting as well with that you have three cameras going at the same time, and with that multicam, because I guess that might be slightly like an editor's dream to have it in so many different perspectives at the same time, and then feeling that energy of that scene of where they are in that location, and then cut it to another one. Um, yeah, kind of play could like you can really sort of amp it up and play around with it a lot more.
Well, the like in the Piotr, when Jake's talking to the Russians, like there's the take where Barry just in the middle of Jake talking just comes down off his close-up, landing on his wedding ring. Now, there are other options where it didn't happen, or it could have been wider, or it could have been on Jason Clark. But I embraced all these things as long as they landed where you wanted them to land and they served in good ways. Like it highlighted that instead of doing this sort of professional call when it landed on his wedding ring, it's when he's starting to be human and trying to connect as a person to the Russians. So it's sort of these choices aren't willy-nilly by Barry's, they're instinctive and pretty well informed and character-based choices. Um, so what's good stands out, and that's they're the pieces. So, and in a lot of ways, when you really have a bit of a winner from Barry, if you've got what feels like infinite choices, it's great to plant a flag in one and kind of go, okay, we're definitely going to use this. Let's build around this, and those things they help you sort of proceed.
That's an interesting point, like you're saying about like using it as a flag, like there's like basically like your kind of foundations for the scene in a way. Would you, when you were watching dailies and looking at them back, and once you sort of noticed that Barry was doing these things in takes, would you start making notes about, oh, on this one, it would go
No, I
into the
tend
ring?
to. I don't work in a written form. I work with reels with edits. So I start to kind of highlight in on the must use shots. Ferguson, there were so many with her. 'Cause she's just so good in a close up with her eyes and everything. Tremendous. So there was like a string of things. Okay, this moment in time, here's these three great moments with Rebecca. Do we use this one, or this one? And it's like, oh my God, well, we got to use this one. And you start to build everything around there. It's like you've got all these other people and all these other things you can go to. That's all fine as long as we come back to her for this bit right here. And they're your sort of key elements to build from. When in chapter one, when the miss happens and it pops up, we learn first at Greeley that's a miss and they all react, and then it pops up on the big board in a close-up, and there's a shot of Rebecca like someone's just punched her in the solar plexus. And it's like that's to me, that's the shot. It wasn't that we it's not that we cut to the miss on the board, it's that we've teed it all up for Rebecca to play her part. So I kind of that when it can kind of bounce around in all these different places, it's just it's, it's extracting the must-haves and how to get all those together so it's fluid and intentional.
And then as yourself, I'm guessing part of it is instinctual because you know that there's certain things that you'll be looking for as an editor because you're watching these performances, you're going over and over again and probably picking up the nuances of what's going on, but then also pushing the story along, knowing that, like, as you mentioned here for the miss shot, having ending up on Rebecca Ferguson's face and that reaction, it's like that's where we want to end, but what's going to be the journey in a way to get there, and how actually, as you said, it's not what's on the screen, it's what the person, it's the human side of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's instinctual. It was also very helpful to have Catherine around. Like she had so much enthusiasm for the process, like, and so much joy in it, and it gave me a lot of confidence because Catherine would have these very, very like real excited responses to performances. And it allowed you to sort of be going, oh, this is definitely the one. This is definitely the path forward. It's sort of it was a joy to get to kind of to play selects down to her and to bounce off each other. And I think it really made the process fast. And the speed of putting the movie together really helped us enjoy it, enjoy making it, enjoy watching it. It wasn't it was interesting because we got to cut it in story order after they'd finished filming. It's the first time I've cut anything that way. I've always been making it in isolation as they film, bouncing all over the place. And to putting it together as an audience member watches it um, was was a real gift to clarity.
And whilst you're cutting it in story order, because usually, as you said, you do it whilst they're filming and you're sort of picking up what's it called? You're basically editing out of sync, but then also in a weird way, um, you're probably
Out of
just
context.
out of context. Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Um, you kind of don't really not understand. You know what's going to happen because you've read the script, but the performances will sort of show it differently because they could have, I don't know, if we take Gone Girl, for example, where, you could be cutting a scene where Amy turns back up, but what's the context of it? Like, what's the character been through? I think here, for example, like, if you were to do it out of sync and you're doing the Greta Lee scene at first, and you cut that whilst they shot other scenes, that would feel, I don't think it would hit you as hard either because you would,
You end up with a lot more choice. Like you end up fatter. Like as in you just end up sort of building because you don't quite know where you want to iron it out. So it can be a little looser. Like the very first thing they shot was the reenactment at Gettysburg, which was a real reenactment, but without actors placed there. Because it was real, there was like I could have done a Ken Burns documentary on that. And if I was working when they were shooting it, I would have had a couple of weeks. And I bet that scene would have been 15 minutes long of all of this stuff that does not deserve to be in the movie, even though it's entertaining and beautiful. But as you're building out the movie in story order, it becomes really clear that it's like, okay, I've got 100 different cutaways that I could use of this reenactment, but I actually kind of need about 4 shots to set up the metaphor that we've been in this process of war for a long time. And it's going to work really well if I get the best of them and the ones that work together so we can give this point distinctly and clearly. And it still takes a long time to sift down to what is the best of it. But if you were just sort of going, okay, I'm going to cut this scene over here. I don't quite know how we're going to use that just yet. But let me do that. I'm going to do this one over here. I don't know if I should be inside the Piotr or if I should be inside the general's space. I don't know. Maybe I'll build like a few like that and a few like this and a few. It would just it would just take a much longer to eventually find your place. Whereas there's something about how we made this film. It kind of came together, reasonably quickly and always made sense to us. And Catherine embraces the idea of following what the material does best. I know that sounds like a common sense sort of sentence, but there was no conflict with her between her and I because you weren't trying to create form out of something that wasn't there or trying to stick to a blueprint that you had, but you were deviated when shooting because of restrictions. Like she's sort of kind of going, let's always just work with the best of what we have. And it makes everything logical. And there's no outside, she has final control and final cut. So there is no outside influence that's saying to you, I'm feeling this and I want to feel that, or I wish it was this. And that's when filmmaking can get quite challenging when someone wants something else from it that wasn't captured. Whereas there's a logic to working with Catherine that you are just polishing up the best of what you have.
and do you find as an editor, like if you've, because like I can imagine like experiences when you're working on like films or commercials, trying to find something that's not there, and it can probably be quite difficult and frustrating because you're kind of looking at footage over and over again. It's like, s- and it's maybe just not working, whatever take has happened or whatever scene you're working on. Do you find when you're doing something like this, it probably felt quite a lot more refreshing and a lot more, should you say, like a lot more relaxing going in rather than stressful.
It wasn't stressful. Yeah, it was very enjoyable. We actually laughed a lot, even though it's such a serious movie. We had a really good time. Um, yeah, look, I can, look, if I'm being asked to do something that seems inert to me, I can have a moment when I'm accepting that information of kind of going, what the hell? But I still enjoy the puzzle of trying to solve it. I still like the idea of trying to extract what that want is. Sometimes it works out, but it didn't really occur in this film. I mean, it would come at me in different ways. Like Catherine, there'd be times when we'd put something together, it would all make sense, and she would say, "I don't really want to be showing that actor. They're just there to be setting up our main person, like put all of their stuff off camera or do everything of that person over shoulder and just stay on." And I'd go, "Oh, interesting." And it would reshape it and it works out. Like that kind of manipulation we could do. It's more when you get requests from people that aren't steeped in what the material is, and that can be a challenge. But or it can just be create chaos and still end up getting something good. But that we just didn't have any of that sort of chaos. And I find most of the filmmakers I work with, I rarely do. Like I never get that sort of chaos with Fincher, and it's quite privileged in that regard.
I think there's also probably comes down to like knowing material so much and probably studying it and knowing that one is probably experience as well. That you have to collaborate with people and understand that like maybe fixing in post is not the best thing. We need to do it now. Whilst
Yeah.
also,
Well, look, directors that know what they shot aren't going to ask you to do something that's not inherent in the material.
yeah, exactly. And I find that as it, I guess, like it's a confidence thing, and also if you all have a good working relationship, is that you know that I don't need to tell Kurt what he needs to do or what needs to happen. We have that shorthand. I can let him go flying
Yeah, no,
whenever.
look, Catherine and I got to bounce off things because I'd select and refine footage and then play it to Catherine, and she'd get excited, and that would excite me, and like that part of it was really, it was such a wonderful way to work, and the two of us are looking forward to doing something again. I'm working right now with Fincher, and I hear less from him until I've sent him something. I would love to get a phone call from Dave going, "I wanted to do this and I wanted to get that." I mean, that would speed things up. But no, I gotta work this shit out.
Do you think that's more just like a personality thing of being like, let's see what people can think of
No, it's
instead of
because I'm
leading down the
working as
path?
he's filming.
Say that.
It's because I'm working as he's shooting.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I bet you there's probably a million other things that people be thinking about whilst shooting as well, or probably on the day, and then what we've done in the future, and then what's coming up in the past with yourself. What I'm curious to know about as well is editing software and the use of Premiere Pro. Now I spoke to a number of editors about it, and it's always interesting to hear people's point of view about what they like using it, what they not like using it. I think many years ago I used like Final Cut when I was at uni, also used the old sort of Steam Decks as well, cutting film and trying to sync it up with the sound. But what's your experience with using Premiere Pro, and why is this the software for you to use, and how do you utilize it the most?
I started my career on Steambex, on an 8 plate Steambeck, with the and as an assistant with trim bins and assembling, everything on film. Then it went to non-linear. I think the first time I used it, it was Lightworks. And then we went to Avid. I was on Avid for years. And then I jumped to Final Cut Pro. We did Social Network and Final Cut Pro. I liked it until it sort of changed. I think after when Steve Jobs passed, it got sort of he wanted the film industry to use his tools, the professionals to use his tools. And I think, at least the way it presented to me, I'm sure someone could tell me I'm incorrect, when he wasn't the overseer of it, it turned into being made more for consumers and home videos, and we all had to abandon it, and that's when we went to Final Cut. Sorry, that's when we went to Premiere. Since got more professional, but by then everybody had split. And I've been on Premiere ever since, and there hasn't been a cause for me to change or a reason for me to change. And the assistants that I work with that sort of run the workflow of everything, they're very happy with it. And to me, that's the main thing, that it's sort of servicing the pipeline. Like I kind of think as a film editor, I use the least amount of, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to come out there. Can I do my splits? Can I do some dissolves? Can I play with sound levels? It's pretty rudimentary what I'm up to. Um, but the control of data and visual effects and all that sort of stuff, that's like I need it to support all of that, which it does. And
Yeah,
I'm sure all the platforms do, and it just starts to become personal choices.
yeah, because like working on Steam bags, man, the pressure of cutting it there.
Oh, what a bore. It's just so time consuming. My goodness.
Then you're also using the chalk as well, and
Yeah, the
uh,
sticky tape, sticky tape. Like, ugh. Like it all seems so romantic and nostalgic. And I like that I came from that part of it. But it was clouded in this sort of mystery in the same way that cinematography is when it was on film. It's like, what's he doing with his light meter, this sort of wizard of light? And editing was this sort of crunchy crunch and the thing and that. And nobody like it was, oh, it's not going to work. Just take my word for it, because it was also labor intensive. That sort of went away with the ease of non-linear. It's a bit like, uh-huh, show me.
Oh gosh, that makes me feel like so long ago doing that. But even with like Premiere Pro, I think you can, what is it? You can like stretch your timeline and still work on something that's like 1 second, but sort of play it out longer, and sort of extend on the scene there and kind of play around with it. Then also, I think you can, as you said, with the pipeline. You could be working on something and you can get your first assistant or second assistant to come in and say, "Oh, jump in on this and have a look. And what do you think about this? Or how is this scene working, for example?"
Yeah, well, right now I'm in different states to my assistant, and I love leaving notes on the timelines. Like I just finished assembling a scene before I hopped on for this interview, and I just leave notes saying, "Help me with this sound transition. Transition. I put this song in their car radio. Can you put a filter on that and believe it? And can you sell their exit with sound? And this shot needs stabilizing." And I kind of write up a bunch of notes and hand it off, and then I'm moving on to the next thing, and then they'll shoot me a text going, that one's ready for you, and that back and forth is just constant. It's all the time.
It's
It's
also
great.
at ease. What ease that must be just to leave those notes for someone. Couldn't leave those notes on the film reel, unfortunately.
No, no, no. When I was an assistant, God, I just had to shadow my editor. Like I was just like this little monkey on his shoulder that had to, and it got into this sort of rhythm when I could put the ashtray in front of his cigarette when it was about to collapse, the ash, and run outside to feed his car meter and get his coffee when it was just finishing. And there was a little fridge full of beers. And as soon as the coffee sort of finished, the beers came out. And like there was this sort of like personal assistant that next to the film assistant. And I could see him zeroing in on shots on the Steenbeck and going, questioning. And I'd be like, oh, he wants to do this. And I'm in the trimming going, "Yep," and you hand the thing to him. He's like, yes, that's what I wanted. And like that it teaches you how to edit because you're trying to be in their mind to help facilitate physically what they're doing. Whereas a lot of that disappeared. We're in separate rooms and separate spaces now. So I think for assistants to grow on the work that's being done, they've got to be curious about watching it and seeing it evolve. Yeah, because you are rarely in the same room.
Do you find as well that they might be asking like why you have done something like that as well?
Yeah, but I mean that's like so much of these things. God, I've got to be cautious with how I speak here because it, it's a career based on taste and curiosity, and but it really begins with like, are you easy to be around? It's that simplistic. And if you've got an assistant that's easy to be around, that's easy to share your space with, and that they're instinctual about when their questions come up and when they want to extract information from you, that it's not coming at a time when, like you got smoke coming out of your ears and you're whirring away and you're in the middle of working out your own sort of math equation of how to get from here to there and what's the best thing. And when someone breaks the spell with this sort of machine gun questioning, it's difficult to move forward. So, but you've got other people you could share the room with that know how to slip and slide into conversation and make it all like in rhythm of the room. But these things are hard to be taught. They just have to sort of come with you.
Yeah, and then I can imagine as well, like just the I don't know, just know when to speak, know when to listen,
It's the same
know when
thing
to
from
go.
directors. Like if I'm trying to work out something and it's clunky right now because I've got the sort of basis of the main shots I want to use, but they're not gluing together because I need interstitial pieces and or the sound's not quite worked out or so. And you've got a director kind of going, that doesn't work. That no, and it's like, I know. Hold on. We'll in a minute. Give me a sec. Like it's the same, like it's rhythms of how to communicate and share the space.
Yeah, and I have many times accidentally put my foot in it, not reading the room properly, but it is what it is. You just have to accept it. But you're right in terms of as well, like sort of getting to that moment and also sort of reading people. And if you have that experience where you're just sitting there watching someone's ash about to fall from the a cigarette, or of like thinking as an editor and being like, oh, I need this, and it's already there in your hand. That's probably like a really, I don't know, it's like a really great instinctive. I guess your instincts are like growing and understanding what somebody wants and needs
Well,
without
the
saying
first
anything.
when I first started learning to do it, and because we worked in these on Steenbeck's in rolls of film, when the dailies would come, editor would he would Mervyn Lloyd was his name, and he would mark up with chalk on which shots he was interested in. He would do an in point with an arrow on it and an out point with an arrow pointing at it. And that was for me to sort of trim out of the roll and put in the trim bin. So then I would go through all of the rolls of dailies, extract all these shots, assemble them all in the trim bin, and then I had to join those back into a roll for him to start cutting from. So there was a roll of selects, but it's not non-linear. It's now a roll, and it's going to come out. And if you haven't put it in a story order that makes somewhat sense of how to edit this piece, he's going to go whizzing around through this roll trying to find that shot he's looking for. But so I would assemble it all in a trim bin in a line, almost like a storyboard of kind of going, I think he's going to open on this, and then he's going to go to this, and then he could use this shot, or this shot, and then this one. And when I got it wrong, like he'd be cutting on one roll, his selects on a different roll of film. And when I got it wrong, he would go fast forwarding, looking for the shot, and look back at me with this face like you fucked that one up, and then find the shot, get it, and go all the way back and look back at me again, and made a point of doing it. There was humor in it, but each time he did it, the game became, can I put this next one together where I don't get that look? And it forces you to think how to edit when you're just a young assistant, a teenager. I found all that stuff really crucial. All those little memories that have never left me.
Yeah, and I guess as well, like pressure, sort of knowing that it's there and kind of having that in the background whilst you're doing it yourself, maybe. Um,
Judgment.
yeah, pretty much. It's probably the judgment and slash hazing ritual of like as when you're going through those sort of moments as well.
Yes. Questioning,
Yeah,
judgment, self-loathing.
have I done this right? Hopefully I don't get the look. Um, I just want to. I've just got two more questions, and for my penultimate one, the score and the sound design play a big part in films as usual, but here I feel like the score just amplifies the dread and really sort of plays with it. But then also with the sound design. you kind of have the stillness of people working, but then it kind of picks up in each vignette. How do you go about inserting people's work so that everybody has their moment to shine? But then also, whilst you're editing, your scenes change, knowing that you've got a certain soundtrack playing or certain sound mix?
Yeah, it's like things change. Look, one of the most crucial things that I find very, very helpful is a premix. And when I had the movie in a solid shape, I went to Paul Otteson, the sound designer, and he did a premix. Then we get all those things back from him, and I'm able to sort of step back from what we've made. It sort of it has this thing mentally where it removes all my fingerprints, and it allows me to see the film for the first time again, and I can pick on it again with more honesty of this bit's lagging, this bit's slow. I love the sound that he's putting in here. We could stretch this out longer and exploit that sound. It can hold, tension and play. So there's a real impact in informing the picture editing, I find, a premix to be able to get it, broken out into stems and to be able to work with it. Paul brought a lot of tension with chatter in the rooms, phone calls going off because the Noah wrote the writer, he wrote all this off-camera chit chat and with generals that the two of them got together kind of saying, what are these phone calls that would be coming in at this time? What would they be asking? How would they be responding? So it's not just hello, really. So it was all of this sort of real chit chat that got recorded with Loop Group that then put in and then given back to us. And that all has a big impact. In regards to music, um, we knew we wanted Volker to do it, and to lure him in, I tempt the movie with like, three or four of Volker's scores from other films. So I'd kind of pre-worked out where we wanted music and what we wanted music to do. And then we invited Volker over. He flew in from Germany and watched the film and loved it and embraced the idea of throwing out all of his stuff and replacing it with new things. But there was a roadmap for what we needed, which he found helpful. Some might not want that at all, but he found it helpful and an enjoyable challenge to improve upon what was his best work previously. You know.
I think it's quite cool though, knowing that that you kind of get to see the film again, but with these with the sound mix edit or added in or pre-mix, for example, and then also having those temp music and sitting down with Volker to sort of explain and go through it all. I guess it's also you kind of have like communicating an idea altogether of like this is how the scene plays out. Let's add like your spice to the pot and let's see what sort of flavor we get from it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
so I love all that stuff. The sound part of it, I just love. I love placing music. I love working it all of that out. And the sound design, it's just so helpful. Like it really just pumps reality into everything. And if things don't feel like they're working, sounds just so often solves the problem. Um, it just makes everything believable. I
yeah,
love like to have a good sound designer. It is a blessing. It's like the way, a carpenter talks about a painter. It's like, you got to have a good painter to sort of clean up all your work.
I think as well with like sound design, you can kind of hide little snippets of info as well.
The fun thing in the mix with Paul was, you get brought into sitting in the mix studio to kind of like, all right, we're going to listen through reel two, and you're listening not just for the new elements that he's brought to it that that you didn't have. A lot of it you're listening to his dialogue. Is it all there? Can you hear it? It hasn't been swallowed up. And I would kind of go, oh, well, I can't, Paul, I can't understand that bit. And he'd turn around and go, intentionally, Kirk. because we repeat that dialogue in the next act. The first time, let's crackle it. Let's make it harder to hear. Let's hold it back and exploit this idea of people are communicating in not the best circumstances because when this alert went off. And that was great because in, instinctually I would have been like, make that clearer, get rid of the futs. Like I want to hear the lot. But he was brave in choosing to, layer the cake.
And then it's also interesting is that you get a different perspective of like what somebody's trying to do, and it probably gives you a whole different perspective on the scene as well to think like, oh yeah, we will repeat that, but slightly clearer, so then we can get a reaction shot of someone trying to make out with what's being said.
Yeah.
And it's the same with like the oh I'm Barrington, I met you at the G8 summit, so and it's like it's said in I think all three parts, and you get so many different like visceral reactions, and then sort of like the president going like, "Huh, okay, so what do we
That's
do?"
so that to me is so funny. There's so much dry humor in that. It's like no one gives a fuck.
Yeah,
And it's such a human thing to do. Think of how many like, famous politicians or actors or anyone where everybody wants to come and present that slight connection they have to them. Oh, hi, I once sort of met you at the blah blah blah. And that they're always like, uh-huh.
oh dear. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, cool. Yeah. So what do we do now? Uh,
Yeah, people usually don't have a plan beyond
yeah,
that.
it's like, oh, I was hoping you'd remember me and be like, yeah, you're that guy. But no, you know that sometimes I think this what was it? It's like a Street Fighter. It's like that was like the worst day of their life, but for me it was a Tuesday. It was like that sort of notion of it. Just to hit you up my final question. What was your favorite scene to work on?
It was always the misses when the missile didn't connect and everybody's sort of devastation. The lead up and the reaction to. I loved being able to present that same information in three different ways, with three different sets of people done with three different tempos, one without music, one with music, one with just two characters. And that to me was the that sort of summarized what the journey was for a film editor. It's kind of, the glib way of me making fun of explaining it. It was like a chef doing duck three ways.
I think that's a very solid choice because I guess even like you can play on people's reactions so much, and I think you can kind of everybody's is always obviously there's a lot of despair, but everybody sort of masks it in a different way. So like when they're in the like the army, people are watching it, and then the girl is like crying, and you could kind of see that she's just broken, like as her human element. So then others are kind of just like, what do we do now? I know it's a coin toss, but it's like we need to think of like plan B, and it leads to more sort of like, oh, I need a minute to think. It's like, well, you got two, so use it wisely. But yeah, anyway, Kurt, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. That was fun.
Great.
Thank you for the interest.
No, no, it's all. I have to say a big shout out to Helen Stevenson for organizing this as well. So, without her, we wouldn't have met, and then we can't have an awkward meet in a few years' time when I'll be like, remember, Kurt, we did this interview. You'd be like, oh yeah,
Thank you both so much for taking the time. Really, it was an amazing conversation.
thank you,
Toodaloo.
everybody. Take care. Bye bye. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.